Are you ready?
Yes, we are now welcome to all of our folks I have with me tonight as guests, Brother Mark Ramsey, Brother Troy George Jr., and indeed it's an honor to have them here as we say Gold Pyrite. Let's invite late Bob Marley.
Do you have the music on the live?
Yes, redemption song. And let me just say good night from Brother Mark Ramsey. Say good night, my brother.
Good night, everyone. Good night, everyone.
And then we have good night from Brother Kitroy George Jr., better known as Music Man, aka Beat the Drum, aka Keyboard Player.
Yeah, good night, everybody. I think he meant to say AKA Serious Man, but good night,
Oh,
everybody.
aka Serious Man. I did. Well, my
That,
name is
that nickname
Kitroy.
I have since I go in academy, so yeah.
Okay. My name is Kitroy George Senior, and indeed, it's a pleasure to have you joining me. Tonight, we're going to be looking at a very difficult topic. Now, I being a minister of the gospel in the Christian religion, uh, ordained bishop, a trained with a PhD in Christian education. It means that I have plenty religion in me. But tonight we're going to talk about something that would give me my dismissal letter when it's finished, because that's we going on the foundation of the Christian church. And before I want you guys to, if you can get the Bible to Malachi chapter 2, and then we're going to look at a few other scripture verses. I'm going to ask you about them. But we first want to look at Malachi chapter 2, and then that same story, run to chapter 3, verse 12. I hope I have the right number. So if you have, let me read it. In the book of Malachi chapter 2, the prophet is speaking and said, now you priests,
Chapter 2?
this one, chapter 2,
All right.
this warning is for you. If you do not listen, and if you do not resolve to honor my name, says the Lord Almighty, I will send a curse on you, and I will curse, and I will cause, sorry, I will curse your blessing. Yes, I have already cursed them because you have not resolved to honor me. Now, in that same talk, we go down to chapter 3. He said, verse 6, I, the Lord, do not change. So you descendants of Jacob are not destroyed. Ever since the time of your ancestors, you have turned away from my decree and have not kept them. Return to me, and I will return to you, saith the Lord Almighty. But you ask, how are we to return? Will a mere mortal man rob God? Yet you rob me. But he asked, how have we robbed you? In tithe and offering. You have robbed me in tithe and offering. You are under a curse, your whole nation, because you are robbing me. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, that there may be food for my house. Test me in this, saith the Lord Almighty. See if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be enough room to store it. I will prevent, and he go on all this protection. Now, this prophecy starts in chapter 2. So I want to say, brother, let me have brother Mark. Chapter 2 was referring to who? And this chapter was in line to who?
If I'm correct, if if my thoughts serve me well, I think it has to do with the nation of Israel,
No, read
the
chapter
well,
2,
the sons of Jacob, chapter 2.
verse 1.
Mm, oh, the priest. This commandment is for you. Yeah. Wow. So this commandment is to the Levites,
It's to the
the
Levite.
tribe of Levi.
Yeah, not because they
Yeah.
were the priests.
Wow.
So today you will say
Yeah, and it makes
in the
sense
church,
now. Yes, yes. It makes sense because now when you read chapter 3, and it talked about kind of a man rob God, directly we know the priests, they were the ones who was in charge of that system where the tithes were an inheritance to them in a sense. So I guess they kept back for themselves instead of doing what they were supposed to do with it, in a sense. They were dealing with it more on the materialistic kind of end instead of the spiritual aspect of it.
brother George.
Yeah, so good night, everybody. First of all, me as first of all, all praises to the Most High. So let me go ahead and say my 2 cents on that. I will definitely agree with what Mark is saying. He was talking to the priests because the reality is we know back in Deuteronomy God talk about giving tithes, but in this case he was really trying to address the priests as to how they were dealing with it. Because the problem is from long time, people, we have a lot of ministers who happen to be fake ones who are misusing the money in the church for their own benefits and not the way that the Almighty designed it to be used. Not saying that there are not some things that it goes into, and I'm sure that might probably come later down. But the misuse of money, the priests were at that time were really messing around with it, and God had to really put his foot down and really address the matter. So I could agree with Mark.
Now, the question, and I will go same order as I had before we started. Now, if this message is for the priest, what was the purpose of the tithes? What do you think the purpose of tithes in scripture was for? Brother Mark.
Yeah, I know they have a particular verse. I know they have a particular uh verse dealing with that, but I can't find it at the moment. But if I remember right, it talked about the tithe being uh first of all, it was a covenant, right? And it was supposed to help with the priestly duties, because the priests were not allowed to work. They were not allowed, like, to buy land and these kind of things. So the tithe now was their portion. Like, when they received these different bowls and these different things and so forth, they were supposed to take from that. They were supposed to be taken from that. So the tithe was to help the people, and also it was to maintain the priesthood. Whoever needed help, that was the tithe was for, to help the poor and also to maintain the priesthood and deal with the matters of the temple and so forth. That's what I can recall at the moment.
Brother George.
Yes, I would like to chime in on that. So I will see to the most extent, I would agree with what Mark was saying because I was doing some research on this whole thing, and upon doing the research, realistically, the tithes was yes, a portion of it will go towards the priest and what's not, which we know as the pastor, and it still happens to this day. But the purpose also was to help the people, help the community, and to put towards the affairs of the ministry, based on my understanding of my research on that.
I want to ask another hard question. And to be honest, I am the only person in danger. And Brother Mark, when I come Antigua, I'm going to hire you, bring you another pastor with me. No.
The police
Do you
lock you
believe?
up, you know.
eh?
The make police lock you up,
No,
you know.
no, before they lock you up. I see the lock up the Adventist police officer who was a preacher man. So they might lock me up too. I write a book. Uh, I would like to ask you, do you believe that the church uses its tithes with the first line of the purpose was to care for the poor and the needy, to provide shelter as a rescue for rescue mission? Do you believe the church take its collect money with the intent to assist, or does it take the money to build an empire? Brother Mark.
Yeah, Matt go first.
Yeah, yeah, that one is a question to get stoned from, boy. But let me say my 2 cents. Personally, I believe the church is okay. They put up that kind of image that that's what they do with the tide. But in my opinion, that's not the main focus. The main focus is about getting the building in a nice looking fashion and getting the things in the building, the highest quality things in the building. It's not so much of a, my main priority is the people. It's always about the comfort of how we feel when we come in this building on a Sunday or a Saturday. It's not about we have a brother who is really in need. Let us that can wait, this can wait. Let us deal with these people. Let us help these people. For instance, I know an individual who um I hope I don't get um disowned for this, but I know an individual who wanted to start a ministry, and I was advising them that, in my opinion, the best way to start is get a tent. Don't even worry about renting a building because you're gonna put people under pressure, and people are already under pressure, right? If you can't afford a tent, walk with some blanket. Tell everybody walk with a blanket, find a nice pasture somewhere, and start. Don't look to put people in a building that you have to pay rent. And of course, the excuses came, but I was saying if our main priority is to help people, why are we just digging from them consistently? Why isn't there anything, going back to them? Why is always give, give, give? So that was something that opened my eye to see like the church is designed in a way. Even when you're registering the church, you have to go through the government. The church is designed in a way that there is this particular order in which every single church follows, right? And the way the tithe is designed and the offering is designed are, let's say how it's the normal way of doing it in a church setting is they have they have to pay this person, they have to maintain the building. That's the two main important things: maintaining the electricity, the building, making sure the AC working, making sure the fans and so good, making sure the 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 sound system and everything perfect, wherever. And then the needs of the people come last. In my opinion, the needs of the people are supposed to come first. Even if the drum don't sound good, we can stay without a drum. If the AC not working, we can stay without the AC. We don't even need a building, right? The only reason we go into the building is because, let's say, rain or whatever, right? All of these things are distractions from the truth. So, in my opinion, yeah, the tithe is misused. Is not used in the correct way. The tithe or the offering. I don't even really believe so much in tithe and offering in a sense. It's just about giving with your heart, you know, just giving out from your heart.
Mr. George, Brother George.
So, sorry about that. Can you ask the question again? My internet had tripped, so I had to drop and come back.
Okay. The question is, or was, as much as we see that God was speaking to the priests, what is the purpose for collecting tithes? What should have been the purpose for collecting tithes and offering? Or what is the purpose for collecting tithes and offering in church?
To piggyback on what Mark was saying, right? The purpose of tithes and offering in church is, let me just first start off with what I was saying. You know, let me say Mark. Mark was saying, you know, to help the people and go towards, you know, the right affairs, you know. Now, I will also say the tithes and offering in the church is to build the house of God, to build the ministry. You know what I'm saying? Now, I understand where Mark is coming from if the drums don't sound good, but I also think too, if you have enough tithes and offering from people who are putting the tithes in the church, you're supposed to be able to invest in something good. Now, if you don't have a building, according to what Mark was saying, you know, somebody started a ministry and they don't have a building. If you have not collected enough tithes and offering, or if you have not had more sponsors, then you use what you have. And I think that's where I'm coming from. But if you have a ministry that is already established, you should give God your best. And people shouldn't be paying their tithes and offering for them to come in a hostile place, because that's like when a church I was going to in Antigua, and I remember growing up in church, you know, we were taught to pay tithes and what's not, right? And I still believe in paying tithes today. But there are some conditions that I like to address. I remember the church was going to Antigua where we were faithfully paying tithes to the ministry and what's not. And they take the money that we have, say they're going to go towards building fund for the church. And I was in my late teens at the time. I'm a grown adult with a family of my own, and to my understanding, that building can't even finish yet. So the question is, where did my tithes and offering go? So my thing is, the tithe are always supposed to go toward the affairs of the ministry and the affairs of the people. And if people are putting a tithe and offering in the church, they're supposed to see value in what they put in. They're supposed to see that they put in their money in good soil. Also, while you're putting your money in good soil and you're building the house of God, God will end up on blessing in return. So if you're not seeing value, or you're not of what you invent, because the thing is, that tithe and offering is a seed. And if you sow that seed and you're not seeing any return on your investment, obviously you're putting your seed in bad grounds. And a lot of times, according to Mark, where they misuse it, yes, if obviously they're misusing the money because you're not seeing the return of what you put in. And I'm not saying that you must give from compulsory, according to Mark, give from your heart. But the tithe and offering that we put into your church If you're not seeing value, you might as well put your tithes and offering somewhere else. So by right, the purpose supposed to be going towards the affairs of the ministry and the affairs of the people. And I can leave it as that.
Now, the question in my mind is, you keep using affairs of the ministry, affairs of the people. What is, Mark, what is the affairs of the ministry? And then, Junior, what is the affairs of the people? I kind of switch on either a strong point and I put it across. What is the fears of the ministry? What affairs ministry have to do?
You,
I don't understand that.
uh, give me a second. Let me. I just want to see something before I.
The book of Acts.
Okay, so for me, so for me personally, the affairs of the ministry, I would say, first of all, let's look at what ministry is. The ministry, mentioned in the Bible, talks about the different offices, like the deacon, the pastor, the bishop, and so forth. Those are ministry. The prophet, that's a ministry. The person speaking in tongues, that's a ministry. Helping, healing, healer, that's a ministry. So when we look at these different aspects, let's be honest, none of these has to do anything with money. None of these ministries have to do with money. If it is that these ministries needed money so much, then none of these abilities would be given to us by gift or by God in that sense, according to the Bible, right? So the affairs of the ministry, in my opinion, is supposed to be a spiritual thing. But now when we bring money into the situation, it has to do with a physical. And yes, when you're dealing with the Bible, you're dealing with both spiritual and physical, and it works like one. But for me personally, your ministry should not be affected based on how much money you have. The affairs of the ministry should not be affected based on how much money this individual have, or this assembly have. Money is the secondary part of it. Spiritual part of it, if you have that down packed the right way, money will come. If you are healing people, if you are spending time with the widows, if you are investing your spiritual gift to help others, the money will come. But we have a lot of people that believe the money have to come in order for these different gifts to be polished and this and that. But in my opinion, the affairs of the ministry has to do a lot with like the different struggles a person may have when let's say going about expressing their gift, their spiritual gift, right? Let's say you're a deacon and you're challenging an area or whatever. These are different affairs, and you need maybe assistance in terms of someone to be with you to take notes or this and that. To me, that don't really call for money. It just call for people to be committed. You know, for me personally, if you look at it, guys, and you can be honest with yourself, years ago, when someone in a village wanted to build a house, the entire village used to come together and help them build a house. Today, you have to pay your neighbor to come and help you build your house, right? So we live in a time where people believe money solve everything. And yes, money do solve a lot of things, but as a people who believe like God is real and God is a spirit and we don't need these physical things to hold us back. Money is important in this world, but at the same time, our ability to help each other without money speaks louder, in my opinion. So yeah.
Uh, very, very good. I don't want to add because I'm just the host. Now, Music Man, aka Serious Man, I have one title boy. What is the affairs of the people?
Okay, the affairs of the people, I like that one. Mark kind of take out a little bit of the affairs of the people, but I'm going to sum it up in the right manner, you know. So the face of the people, you know, their well being. That's the main thing, their well being, you know. And let's go back to also helping the fatherless, the widows, and what's not, because you could use the tithes to do that as well. Now let's start with the well being of people, you know. I remember Mark said something a while ago if somebody wanted to build a house and what's not, right? You know, the neighbors to come together. But I also remember back in the day, growing up, you know, like a church member needs maybe say something health wise, I would say, right? And we all come together to help that person, you know what I mean? And sometimes what we put in the church, like in this case, maybe an offering, right? To help towards certain things for the people in the church, whether it's to, or even, for example, I remember a church I was going to in the Virgin Islands, where I don't know the name, I don't remember the name of that offering they were putting up, but it was the welfare of the people who may have disabilities and they were not able to climb up the stairs. So they were trying to invest in something that I think you call it like the name not coming to me. That thing where you can roll the wheelchair up on it. The name is not coming to me off my head.
Ramp.
The ramp. Yep, it's a ramp.
Yeah.
So they went to a ramp, and that's something goes towards the face of people. You know, you have people who have disability, but they want to come to church. So you'll find something that will help them to get into that church, and you don't leave. You cannot have a church that doesn't cater to people like that when you know that they're gonna be falling down. They're gonna sue you. Now, I don't know if they have either gotten anywhere with that or if they decide to do it at all, because you know a lot of times the church will talk and they don't act. Now, so go back to the physical people. If you see there is a need for the people in your church, I'm not saying you must take your tithe and offering to support a man that don't want to work. I'm not saying you must take your tithe and offering to feed a man who just happen to just not be working for a reason, because I know some people have a mentality the church has decided to help a man who's not working. And I mean, one of them I've seen decide to be a thief. But what I'm saying is, if you know there are people in the ministry that need, and you know it's the number of them that need help, though that what we are investing content as an offering where the welfare of the people is concerned is basically you'll come together and provide something from what we have invested in so that it can come and help those people in the ministry. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I'm sure by all means whoever is listening have an idea of what I am saying as well. And also when it comes to things like the fatherless and the widows. Now, I know we give tithes and offering in church, but I understand I've been doing some research and I've seen it. Things like soup kitchen, where we go out and it's basically like feed the homeless. But out in Jamaica, I know the guy in St. Matthew do something called a food drive. So basically you take that money that we put in the church and we say we're gonna invest in this, we're gonna invest in that, so that way we can go out and feed the homeless and what's not. I've seen things like that, you know. So these are the things that we concern about. We talk about the affairs of the people. And we just have to use the money and use it for logical sense. At the same time, we should not let money be the reason why you don't find something to help people. Because if you don't collect enough tithes and offering, then guess what? Get a loan from the bank and the same tithes and offering that we put in the church, you borrow against the money and pay back the loan. So don't let the money be the reason you can't help people. But the reality of the matter is, what we invested in church is supposed to help the people and also to help the ministry. And we also have to use discipline in how we do it without misusing the money.
Um, Before we go to the another question, I want to go back bring us back to Malachi chapter 2 and 3, when he told the priest that you have robbed the money for yourself, you have taken it for your account, and You rob God. So they were taking the money or whatever they were bringing, and rather than distributing it to the saints, they kept it, and God promised a curse. But what they have done in church, rather than the pastor, rather than taking responsibility, he'd make it sound like God is going to punish the people for not contributing towards his cause, when he should have contributed towards the cause of the people. So what they do is flip it in Christianity. Now, Christianity is not an Old Testament or a Hebrew original religion, as we studied. So in the New Testament, the scripture said that we should give as the Lord prosperous. There is nowhere in this New Testament it say we should pay tithes. Brother Mark.
Yeah. There's in terms of tithes in the New Testament, I think there is something uh
Abraham and Melchizedek.
sorry, let me come back. Give me a minute. I have to go do something real quick. Give me a few.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
Junior.
Yes, I would like to disagree to a point. And the reason why I choose to disagree to a point is I understand that the New Testament may not directly say pay tithes, right? But let's go back to the Old Testament in the book of Deuteronomy. The book of Deuteronomy made it clear about giving your 10%. I know back in the days of Deuteronomy, that 10% was barter, it was of goods, because that was their medium of exchange. Now, all medium of exchange is currency. So the Bible, and in the New Testament is concerned, the New Testament say, "Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God." So if Deuteronomy tell you that 10% belong to God, and Jesus say, "Give to God what belong to God," and we just read in Malachi that I know God, I change not. So that means we serve the same God yesterday, today, and forever. So that means we are supposed to pay our tithes. Now, I'm not saying or disputing the fact that a lot of pastors try to flip. I wouldn't say they flip it. Yes, we as believers supposed to pay our tithes. Of course, don't do it from compulsory, because nobody should put a gun to your head to even sow any seed in church. At the same time, you know what God say about tithing. But the problem is the pastors misusing the money in the church and then trying to put it on the members to make sure we fill their pockets. And that is the issue. So I don't think the issue is believers are in the idea of believers paying tithes on offering. The issue is the misuse of the tithes and offering. And then when you don't have enough to do what you're supposed to do with the money, you flip it and say, if you don't pay your tithes, God wouldn't bless you. Because they really try to say, if you don't fill my pocket, God wouldn't bless you. So I think it's a misuse situation right there.
Hold on there. Let me make a disclaimer. And to all the listening, this is a disclaimer. The view shared on this program is not the view held by the host or its association or positive vibes. It is strictly the opinion of the guest. Our intent is not to slander, promote hurt or harm to anybody, but just to give facts and opinion about the program is not responsible for those opinion shared by the guest. Um, before Brother Mark come on, before I forget what Mr. George said, in the book of Acts, chapter 4, he said, all the people were of one heart and one mind. No one claimed that any of their possession were their own, but they shared everything they had. With great power, the apostles continued to testify of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus. And God's grace was so powerful at, at walking them all. Sorry, so powerfully At walk-in then all, there were no needy person among them. For from time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them and brought the money for the sale and put it at the apostles' feet, and it was distributed to anyone who had needs. Um, before I'm not supposed to give my opinion now. So I want to, with that scripture, Brother Mark, let me go easy for you. What is the need? Have any, since you go to church, have any church leader give you a purpose why you are to give you and you're not paying, you're giving your tithes or offering to the church? Brother Mark, don't tell me you have a stomach ache now.
Just correct me if I have, if yeah, just correct me if I have the question right. You're asking if basically if any pastor or church leader told me about the purpose
I
for
don't
me
mean you
giving
personally.
offering or tithe. Is
I
that
don't mean you personally. Have they announced in the church?
no? I'm just I know.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's something that is done. I personally I visited quite a few churches and I have never heard it said. But let me say this: when I first got saved, one of the things that we had was new convert class, and they went over the church that I went to first. They went over what the purpose of the offering was, and they had verses to show. As an example, the one you just used in Acts, where they had all things in common and so forth. Um, that's what my foundation was built on. So I had an understanding, I would say, of what tithe is supposed to be used for in terms of helping the people, helping the poor, um, uh, basically providing anyone have a need. It's supposed to be able to assist them. But however, um, once I got into the church, I realized that that wasn't happening. Instead, the money was storing up, storing up, storing up, storing up, storing up. So um, I think that there is not an emphasis on it. It's like a brief kind of thing, but it's not something that is consistent. It's always about giving because God love a cheerful giver, and must give with a good heart and this and that. But you never really hear, as often as you hear give, you never hear, okay, if you have a need, come now. We hear about giving more than we hear if you have a need, come. Because I believe if they were to say that, a lot of people would start putting out their hands to receive because a lot of people have need. A lot of people have need, in my opinion.
All right. Um, the, I heard somebody say that God, a preacher said many times that God wants us to give to the church. God loves a cheerful giver. He didn't say a cheerful giver to the church. He didn't say cheerful giver to any institution. He loves a cheerful giver. Now, Mr. George, I don't, Brother Mark, I know, I don't know if you check out. Tell me, has the church ever, every Sunday, give you a reason for you to give them your money?
Well, I don't attend. Well, my home church don't really run every Sunday. What has been having a few services, eh? And but I will say
I
this,
don't mean, sorry, hold on there.
and in
I
general,
don't mean, I don't mean when they want you to pay extra.
no, no, no,
I
no, no,
mean,
no.
okay.
No, I know in general. If they give me reason to want to pay tithes and offering, yeah, because if I can, if some, I'm younger like you, right? And it may sound religious to some people, and I ain't trying to be religious or nothing like that, right? But you must know when you're sowing in good grounds. You must know that. You must know that when you put, and I mean, every day, everything in life is a risk, eh? Because let's say you go to a church, you decide to become a member. I'm not talking about visiting a church, because if you're visiting a church, you're not obligated to give them anything. But if you decide to become a member in that church, there has to be something in there that causes you to want to build that house. And once you decide that you want to be a part of that ministry, you build what's building you. Now, if it, and that's the main reason, it is building you spiritually, intellectually, and of course, as like Mark say, once you do things with the right cause, money will come and the Almighty will bless you. But other than that, if you're talking about a random church that I visit, or if I happen to be a hired in somewhere, do they give me reason to sow? Personally, I don't just sow into other ministries other than my home church, because if I don't feel that I should be a part of your church, or I haven't seen you really building me per se, I don't feel obligated, because I only build what is building me. And if you're not building me, then my money is not going to be built in your pocket. I'm just saying. For example, my home church, it's building me spiritually, intellectually, and God has been blessing me. See, when I tithe, every time I make up my mind to tithe and the place where God put me, I know God has blessed my family and I. But there has to be something in there that gives me reason to want to be a part of you, for me to come and pay tithes and offering in your church. And I'll leave it as that.
Brother Mark, why churches at the very inception make you promise to support the church with your giving? It is part of the initiation ceremony. When they receive you in church, they say, do you promise to support the church with your giving? And yet we say that it is not compulsory for you to give, but they put you on the quote unquote contract.
Wow.
I, I think it has to do with the let's put it this way. When you decide to be a part of a church, for the most part, you are part of an organization. And the church is, most churches, if not all, are non-profit organizations, meaning the way in which they help people and in the way in which they get to build those nice, beautiful buildings you see and have those nice things is from people that donate and the members, right? And the reason why I believe they do that is because um, they have to make sure that it's clear to you that you are now a part of us. Therefore, you have to now give to us in order to continue this. What can I say? In order to make this organization continue to grow, in order to contribute to these things that we don't really get a profit from, in order to make sure that continue to run and run even better, in a sense. But I personally, let me say this, right? I heard Junior mention some really good information about the tide and how it's used and so forth. But one of the things I studied and realized was that in order for you to even give an offering to God, you have to be right with God. And a lot of churches don't even, let's say, they don't emphasize that in the teaching. There is a particular verse in Matthew, I think, that talks about if your brother offend you, do not bring your gift to the altar, right? And can you imagine a sinner giving their gift to God? A person who is not saved and a person who is let's say living in sin, and yet the pastor, the deacon, everybody see this person give him money and they're saying, oh, God will bless you, God will bless you. But God is saying, listen, this gift that you're giving me, I don't even want it until you reconcile or you repent. I don't want your money. God is literally saying, I don't want your money unless you have a good heart. But yet the pastors, the preachers, the teachers keep telling everybody, come and give, come and give, come and give. But God is saying, I don't want that. I want your heart first, and then you can always contribute. But yet the main theology around giving is, it doesn't matter if you're saved or you're unsaved, just give to God. And God will bless you. God will turn it around. God will shake. I've seen New Year's service. I went to a New Year's service a couple of years ago, and this pastor preached and he told everybody, throw a $5,000 seed and God is going to bless you. He didn't ask these people if they were saved, if they were not, if they were living in sin. He didn't ask them the condition they were in. All he told them, sow this seed and God will bless you. And I saw people like I personally know that not living nowhere close to a righteous life, and they're throwing this seed expecting a return. So, in my opinion, the church in number one, the whole ideology around church, most people don't even know what the church is because people still think the church is the building. So now, when we refer to building the church, a lot of people think it's about building, making the building bigger. So when you look at tithe, offering, and the whole church concept, right, based on how you see it, because there are a lot of people who think it's a physical thing. But it's actually, when you read the Bible in depth, it's a spiritual thing. And when you take it in the physical aspect, you take away the whole meaning away from it, in my opinion. So I feel like um when it comes to tithe and offering, and the church asking people to make sure they contribute to it, it's all about just falling in line with the system that was already created and doing your part in the system. But once you become, let's say, spiritually free, you will realize that something is wrong with the system, because you will look around in that church and you will find people that have needs, and you don't ever have to ask some of them if they have a need. You can look at them and see that they have a need. And the church would just every Sunday, hi brother, hi sister, and that person literally, you can look at them and see they have a need. You don't have to ask. So I feel like it's just a way in which the slave masters um devise a plan in order to get more money out of the black people that were now freed, to get it back into the system, in a sense.
Um, I would, I am not supposed to give a comment, even if I share the same view. Let me add something to there. The church is not the people. In 15 and the 15th century, before it used to be the people, but after Pope Gregory changed it, the church is an institution. We can make noise and back, but it is an institution. And everything that surrounds you and I, we are all institutionalized. The family is an institution. The hospital is an institution. The prison is an institution. School is an institution. So everything is institutionalized that you can follow the directive set up by the slave masters. But the question I want to ask, and it's also come to Junior now, and also to Mark, why is it that the pastor lives higher than the economy of the parishers? Let me make it simple. Why the pastor live so way above the average income of his congregation?
Let me start this way, right? And I'm going to balance it. Because there are some good grounds where the pastor may be living high above average income. At the same time, there are other members in the ministry, if that's what you're saying, that are also living above average income because he has birthed them into that realm. Not because the problem is where most churches don't have a balance. If that's what you're saying, where the pastor living above high average income while the member suffering, is that what you're saying? Is because a lot of the I hate to say it, but most of them pastors they preaching Bible, 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 Bible. Give and it shall come back to you. But you're not even telling me and showing me ways I can better myself as an individual and as a person. All you care about is the offering that you collect from the church, and you think that you have to the thing that you have to build and live for church. I will tell you, my pastor, well, my apostle, one thing I respect him for, and he make it clear. He was successful before he had the ministry. And the reason why, he tried to show a lot of them pastors, you don't have to live off of church people to have a high average income above average. So a lot of them don't want to run their business. They want to live off a church. And then some of them have their business, but yet still want to live off the church. And because of living of the church, they coercing people to give, putting a gun to their head to give, make them feel under arrest, and then push come to shelf. The pastor making a lot of money. He driving a behind luxury vehicle because of the high above average income, while the church members suffering. But if there was a balance where the pastors have a high above average income or he's a millionaire, and there are members in the church who are also six-figure earners and millionaires, because it means that he's not only teaching them Bible, but he's teaching them ways in which they can prosper and giving them codes. When I say codes, ideas, things that seeing your potential and giving you ideas you can look into, so you can go and build yourself. And even if you don't make it to a millionaire today, you're not going to be living the same way you were when he first talked to you, because he's already giving you ways in which you can prosper in life. But if the pastor does busy about making money of the church members and not helping the church members to do better, obviously the church people are going to be struggling while he living in luxury. That's really it.
Okay, we have just about, let me make sure, um, less than 8 more minutes for us to wrap up. We just want to remind our people. The truth is, Mark is gone. I wanted to hear you, sir.
I don't know what's going on. Maybe he might come back.
Okay. Um, we I needed to get, because I want to end on time tonight because I have another meeting to go to. The reality is, in the church, the pastors live higher than the income of the people, and people have to sustain him. And I still have a problem understanding why. So we have a few more minutes. I want you to give us your closing remarks before I make mine.
All right, so I don't know what's going on with Mark. I hope you're all right. But yeah, it goes back to the same thing I said previously, where the pastor is living high above income more than the people in the church. But the reality is, unless what is on your life is being birthed into them because you birthed it by not only teaching them Bible and forcing them to give, when occur or like come like you coercing, because you shouldn't coerce nobody to give anyway. You're supposed to give their best. You teach them the principles of giving, but along with that, you teach them how they can be successful and to be prosperous. Because the Bible says, God wants us to prosper even as also prosper. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not teaching those things, then you're just teaching about giving, and then you live in luxury while the church member suffering. Obviously, something is wrong with your congregation, and people are sown into bad soil. And that's really how I can conclude that. But if it's a case where you are living above average, and you are showing people where they can get above average, even if it's to start one place, but you know that their lives have been improving, then you know this is a good church because I don't only give, I don't only hear about Bible, I don't only hear about you telling me if I must give my 10%. I don't only hear about the law of giving, but I hear the ways in which God can bless me and how I can be prosperous in life outside of just hearing a Bible sermon in church. That you need to have a balance, and that's the way I see it.
Brother Mark, give us your, because we have just about 5 more minutes. Can you give me take 2 out of the 5 and tell us your final wrap up? I'm not hearing
I
him.
can't hear you.
Unmute the mic.
You're on mute.
Okay, go ahead.
I think someone mute me. Yeah. In terms of pastors, basically living above, let's say, the standard in which their members are living. I think for one, as Junior mentioned some very good points there. If the pastor is in that realm where he's able to show people how to be more financially stable, that should be one of his priority, right? Also, the church should be a community first before anything else. And the fact that one person is in a higher position than the next person, it shows you that something is wrong with that community. You understand? Number one, if you are the head of a house and you are a parent, and let's say you have achieved a master's degree, you are supposed to be able to teach the people in your household something. You understand? To get them to some point. Yeah, but if you have a master's degree, but then you just talk down, everybody knows and say, oh, you stupid, you done, you this, you that, then most obviously, you're not helping the environment around you. The church is supposed to be a reflection of the world. The world is supposed to be a reflection of the church. And in terms of a leader having the capacity to help others achieve, let's say, financial status in that aspect, they're supposed to, be willing enough to teach in that area also. But however, if you are a Christian, that should not even be a topic of discussion about reaching, being preserved in this world and having financial stability and all of that. Because when you read the New Testament, in my opinion, if anybody were to read the New Testament in context, Jesus was warning people that, listen, don't look at these material things. Focus on the mission. Focus on the mission. We see in Acts, people were selling their land and so forth. They were no longer storing up an inheritance for the children's children. They were ensuring that as a community, we all had what we needed. And then you saw them moving from this place to that place because the mission, the key element in, and that's why I believe that Christianity is a flawed religion. The church is not being persecuted the way in which, when you read the Bible, those people are being persecuted. The church today is not persecuted. The church today is literally, the church today is literally here because of persecuting other nations. You understand? The reason why we have these churches today is because they went around, they built these buildings, and they went and persecute the natives, they went and persecute the different person, and they got them to follow the order. So the church was the one that was persecuted in the Bible, but the church that we see today is the one that persecutes. If you don't follow their command, if you don't follow their laws and orders, you are deemed as unholy, unrighteous, evil. And in my opinion, the whole aspect of tithe and offering was, the whole aspect of offering in the New Testament was for those people to be stable enough to be able to move around. But now the whole aspect of tithing and offering is to, in my opinion, is to build a kingdom here. And that don't make any sense. So the pastor shouldn't even be preaching on that subject, in my opinion. It should be preparing people for for God's coming, not to have more babies and get bigger families and all of that, because that's teaching opposite of what the Bible is teaching. Is the opposite.
Okay. Well, we have just about 2 more minutes, and
That's it.
I want to say thanks to both of you for your profound. I was looking to see more participation out there on the program, but I'm sure probably people listen because it's an intense topic. The next time I want to next Thursday night, I want I may not I'm not sure before I can tell you because I'll be at the pastors conference. And once I think I can when I see the agenda, I will text everybody to say if I'll be available because I don't want to leave and go, but I want to know if I can leave early and I'll let you know. But the next time we meet, we want to discuss is the morality of the church standard biblical standard or religious standard? They tell us one wife, is that biblical or religious? They tell us you cannot do this and they want to take you to heaven and so many things that the moral standard that the church set up are they biblical or religious? And just to say to our listeners that if you are following the New Testament religion like Christianity, it is not you live it. Go ahead, Marcos. I
Quick
think
question. When you say if it's yeah, I have a quick question. When you say if it's religious or biblical, are you referring to religious as in something that was changed in the New Testament, and biblical referring to the older scriptures?
I'm saying, is it in the Bible? Some of the morality that we have, the
Oh,
moral
okay, okay,
requirements
okay.
that they placed on us, is it a biblical
Mm-hmm.
requirement or a church requirement? So we
Okay, I
research it
got you. Okay.
and to talk to your audience on that. But I must say good night to everybody and thank you for your time and to let you know that it was indeed my honor to have you guys and we want to let you know that I appreciate you and spread the word. Let people know that there is a discussion online. Live follow us on Facebook and on um, YouTube. Let them follow us so we can educate and make sense out of nonsense. Good night.